Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Train Simulator Classic, aka Railworks. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Rio Grande Southern, Rico and Telluride route for giggles and squiggles. Finally, I know it's probably expected of me to have done a video when it released, and I didn't feel like it. I don't like to do my videos when everybody and their mother does them, so we're going to take a peek at one now. So this is a relatively recently released narrow gauge route by Milepost Simulations. A little more up my desires. I think a while ago I took a look at the Clear Creek, which was also done by Milepost. It's another narrow gauge route. It's fairly well done, but that one was a Colorado and Southern route. This one's a little closer to my likes. So yeah, we're gonna take a peek at it. So it's about 40 miles of the route, plus a 10-mile branch off to Telluride, which we are in right now. Sweet Telluride. I have been here a couple times. With the route, you will end up with a K27 and a handful of rolling stock, which are, I'm not gonna lie, for the first time in a while, the rolling stock I think is better than the Locomotive. Rolling stock's actually pretty well done, but we'll go over that in a minute. You get a decent bit of rolling stock. You get a K27 with without a snowplow, and with 3 different tenders. Different, air quotes, different as in they got different lettering, but you will not get a Rio Grande Southern 460. That is not part of the pack. That's just part of my AI right now. This is done by Dick Cohen, Brick Kits. If you're looking for something a little more authentic for the Rio Grande Southern, it's probably a better option. I'll do a video on that later on, but that does not come with the route. But just a first off heads up, this is pre-update route. This is as you buy it in the store right now. If you don't know, Milepost Simulation did push a freeware update. I believe you can go to their Facebook website and find it. For me, the way the link wouldn't work, so we're looking at it as you buy it in the Steam store right now, as it sits. Besides one thing, I put a fan railer whistle on my Locomotive here. Other than that, I have not changed anything. So let's dive off into it. So of course, you get a Locomotive, the K27, which, I don't hate it, but it kind of sad we didn't get a little more unique motive powder to the Rio Grande Southern. As you see, we had a 460 just go by something a little more RGS. While yes, they used a fair number of the K27s, they're not really associated with the Rio Grande Southern as far as their image. When you think of a K27, generally you're thinking of the Rio Grande, the Denver and Rio Grande Western, the parent company. But that's not to say it's a bad model. So there are 2 other K27s in the game. One done by Brick Kits. It's the same guy that did that 460 that went by. And then the other one is part of the G-Trax Denver and Durango and Silverton route, which was an old MSTS model that had been converted. And now we have this one. So it's kind of my other, I don't want to say complaint, just kind of irk. We'd already seen 2 of them. Why didn't we get a little more unique Locomotive? And I know somebody's gonna say, well, they're not the same quality. Yeah, you're right, they're not the same quality, but I still like to see unique stuff done before we see copies of other stuff. So that's my opinion. Take it as you want. But it's overall not a bad looking model. The detailing is pretty decent. The texturing is pretty decent. The overall model is pretty decent. It's not perfect, which we will go over in a little bit, but it's not half bad. The rolling stock, however, that's cool. So the rolling stock has some cool ambient noises, as you can hear. Our cattle cars, if you have cows loaded, they move. That's awesome. I know, the dumb little details. I love that. We have seen the same blasted rolling stock over and over and over and over and over for Train Simulator, with practically no sounds whatsoever that come from them. This is so stinking refreshing. And overall, they're detailed pretty well. Up close, the texturing is kind of... it's not terrible, but it certainly isn't perfect, per se. It's a little blurry up close, but whatever. I'm not too heartbreaking on that. Textures look pretty decent. The detailing overall is really nice. The lettering is a bit blurry up close. Stuff like that is just kind of... But overall, rolling stock looks great. Modeling looks great. And these are just the cattle cars. You'll also get a handful of caboose. In the caboose cars are not dynamically numbered. You will get individual numbers, and you will get 2 different variations of that number. I don't have them all down here, but you get a caboose. You'll get box cars, loaded, unloaded. You'll get a flat car, loaded and unloaded with a lumber or log load. And then you'll get hopper cars with, oh goodness, unloaded or loaded coal. A couple other loads, I don't remember off the top of my head. But overall, these are really nicely detailed, and they all have nice rolling sounds, which we'll go over in a little bit and take a trip down the route. But detail-wise, these are overall really, really nice. Kind of the same story with the stock cars. The lettering is a little blurry, texturing is a little blurry up close, but other than that, detailing's really nice. And, look, we even get our squared off nuts and such. I know somebody's about to make a dirty joke. Whatever. But even our undercarriage looks really nice. Really nice. And then our flat car here, we got a lumber load. Overall, it looks really nice. Our box car, pretty decent. I don't believe it's 3D planks, however, the wood does look really good. It is a 2D texture, but it looks believable. Lettering's a little blurry up close, especially compared to the numbers, but it's not half bad. And then, am I missing a tank car? You get a tank car. It's all dark. Texturing again is a little blurry up close, but overall nicely detailed, nicely modeled. So I believe that's it as far as the rolling stock goes. That doesn't come with it either. That's a K28, another Brick Kits model. But overall, the route detailing is pretty nice. I remember one of my issues with Clear Creek is Clear Creek's, it's really hard to figure out what time period they were shooting for, because they mixed in a lot of old assets and new assets, and you ended up with this freakish amount of modern-ish looking buildings next to 1800s blacksmiths. It just didn't mix well. This has a more consistent look to it overall. It looks more shooting for maybe that 1940s era, 1930s, 1940s. And overall it looks a lot more consistent. There are some kind of wonkiness items, but overall the basic look is there. Detail wise, could have stood to have a little more work done. These are dirt roads, and then the building is clearly shop fronts, but there's no walkway or anything. It's not even dirt, like people have been there. So, and then we have just a complete lack of people. No people, no cars, no nothing. So that's kind of an irk, but not too terribly noticeable irk, especially when you're busy with operations and whatnot. Overall, the actual detailing is really nice. Another wonky irk that it doesn't look too terrible in towns and whatnot, but it definitely shows whenever you get out of towns. The lack of a roadbed in a lot of places. There's a lot of places where the track is just placed on the ground. So like here, boom. Track's just placed on the ground. Perfect, flat, level ground. I don't like that. There's no roadbed coloring. There's no actual roadbed modeled onto the track like here. It just... I don't like that. That doesn't float my boat. Some it do, some it don't. I'm one of those that don't. I'm not a fan, but whatever. If we continue on back from Telluride, we have some pretty neat water trough bridges, I believe is what these are supposed to be. Water troughs. We continue on back. We're going to beat our 10-wheeler up here. It's not a very powerful locomotive. It actually might be struggling up the hill with those 5 cars. But this is the end of the line for going in the direction of Telluride. We have a mine up here, which is overall nicely modeled. Our water coming downhill is kind of but pretty nicely modeled mine. This is really cool. This is something I've never seen before in Train Simulator, and it's something a lot of people don't notice whenever they go to Colorado and physically see this in person. But these tramways, suspended tramways that go up the mountain and down to the mine, to the processing plant. Because sometimes, if you went up, the actual mine hole would be somewhere like way up here. Way up on the side of the mountain or something. Well, how do you think you're going to get this train all the way up here? You wouldn't. So a lot of the mines and such in Colorado would either have switchbacks, which, those are those quick zigzags going down the side of a mountain. They'd have those with mules that would carry the coal down, the coal ore and such down to the mine, the processing plant. Or they have those, they had these tramways, these tram buckets, suspended buckets that would run all the way down. So that's a really kind of a neat feature we've never seen before. This is the end. See that? We got cars going by. I got a bunch of cars back here. There's no people, but a bunch of cars and whatnot. So that kind of helps give it a little more life. So, boogity, 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 boo. There you can kind of hear that ambient for the cars, which actually sounds really good. It's kind of frustrating that we have waited over a decade now to have a route added in for the American side of Train Simulator anyway, and get proper car sounds. Actual nice, noticeable, loud car sounds that aren't just that incessant scream when you go around a corner. So that's really nice. That's awesome. I love that. Now I know there are other routes that have some kind of ambient to their cars, but they're so faint and so unnoticeable it's not worth mentioning. Now, with the Locomotive, right off the bat, one of your issues, your brakes are not going to be set, so you'll load in and start rolling immediately. We'll just go through and set our brakes. Yeah, your brakes aren't set, so you're gonna start rolling right off the bat. I don't think anything's really animated either, as far as, you know, weird, true, wonky, freaky stuff. It's not really Smokebox or Machine Rail, DSG. It's not really quite that level of detail, but it is pretty nice, you know. It's nice to see a new model with a root. Now, I know I said I complained a little bit about the Locomotive, but I am still grateful. I do like to see a actual new Locomotive with a root, not the same models used over and over and over that have been in game for, you know, fuck knows how long. But our cow's mooing, but and it does look pretty nice. There's not a whole lot to fiddle with, unfortunately. So like, we can't open our cab roof here, which I don't. It's just a square, so you can't open the cab roof. It's not terribly in depth. One of my, as is all too often with steam locomotives, but one of my complaints: turn the HUD off, open the firebox. We're not building any coal. How are you supposed to build your coal level without having the F4 HUD up? So that's a little bit of a frustration there, but whatever. You can open your doors, you can open your windows. You don't get to pick where they sit. You just click on them, they open all the way or they close all the way. Doors open. Bell. It's the same bell from Clear Creek, so nothing special. Doesn't change whether you're in or out of the cab. And, you know, overall, it's not the greatest looking. It's not a high detailed model. It's not terrible. Not perfect. One thing I do remember that is noted in their fixes that you will see here: our generator is indeed running. Can't you tell? It's not. The generator is not. That noise that you're hearing, that idle sound right now, that's the blower. Turn the blower off and immediately goes quiet. It's like our safety valves are going off. We have no sound. Our generator is on, and it does have a generator kind of sound, but no generator smoke. And like I said, it's that same old RSC K4 sound that's meh. The texturing is pretty decent. The model looks pretty nice overall. It's got some nice detail up on it. Headlight. Now, finally. Finally. Oh my goodness, finally. That is what I would call a decent headlight. All too often we get these neon white LED headlights that are just awful. Now, you'll recall I just did some videos on Smokebox's 440, 460. Those are good looking headlights, but those are not electric headlights. This is an electric headlight. This is how it should look. A nice yellow, soft glow. No harsh glare. No harsh white color. That looks pretty good. That's a good looking light. I like it. Your marker lights, they're not too bad. Nothing special. Not a whole lot going on with them. So let's check our tracks here. Be sure we're set to pull out without running into anybody. Now, as I said, we're sitting in Telluride right now. Up here, this is the Telluride branch. If you opt to go that direction, this is your main route right here. which runs from right down here in Rico on up to Placerville and off to Ridgeway if you wanted to extend the route. There's a lot of flag stops in between. It's like Fall Creek there. What's down here? A lot of road switching. Here we got Wilson. Vanadium? Sure. Water stops. Another thing you'll have to take note of. These locomotives will burn through water like nobody's business when you're going uphill. You'll have to stop frequently for water. Little lime siding there. Bilk siding. Right here we got what is this? Vance Junction. Anderson, Keystone, Ophir, Trout Lake. It's another wide Lizard Head, or Lizard Head Pass. It's up here. Gallagher, Kimbersburg, Coke Ovens. Real wild names. Burns? Or Bumps. I think it's Burns. So, that's your whole route. It's a pretty healthy sized route. What is a little odd and a little different. Speed limits are pretty high. Yard limits are about 15 mile an hour. As you can see right now, we're sitting on a 15 right now. On a lot of the flat areas, it picks up to about 35 miles an hour, which is a bit of a surprise. One of those irritations. This is a hand-fired locomotive. You hear that the sound for the auger on a K4. These do take a second to build up pressure into the cylinders, which is nice. I believe Smokebox actually did a lot of the physics and whatnot, so that's nice. Thank God for Fan Railer and his Rio Grande whistle, because whatever that was on this model to begin with is awful. We are absolutely dragging our train right now with our brakes set. Now, on level ground, these things will kind of still take off a little bit, but it's not too bad. But you will have to, like I said, take some of the speed limits with a grain of salt as you see them, because it's like now it shows 35 mile an hour limit. We're going to speed a little bit, I don't care. It shows a 35 mile an hour limit. That 35 miles an hour will continue even on a lot of curves and whatnot. You'll hit curves or you'll hit sidings or such, and it'll still show 35 mile an hour, like out here, all down here. This is, I believe, if I remember right, I started down here when I first started fiddling with this route. So like all this is 35 mile an hour. And you'll hit these corners and find out the hard way that you don't want to be doing 35. But this is one of the things they're fixing. I know a lot of people complain that the brakes are really slow to apply and really slow to show any effect. Chuff sounds, K4, RSC K4. Nothing special there. Kind of irritated at that because these locomotives have a very noticeably loud bark to them, and that noticeably loud bark is obviously not there. Smoke effects are pretty nice overall. I do like them. They look a little bit wonky whenever you look around like that, but overall they do look pretty decent. Another thing they'll be fixing is the reverser. The reverser does little to nothing as it sits right now. So we're going to get this up to 35 for giggles and squiggles. Because you can indeed get the locomotive up to 35 mile an hour. Go back up to our hole. Looks like it's flying, but it's not. That the old G-track sounds kicks over right there. As if we're, you know, a big locomotive. Just for your giggles and squiggles, throttle wide open. Our caboose has a view, which is really nice. It's an actual inside view. I love it. And overall, the interior looks pretty decent. You get an inside or outside on both ends platform. Now, realistically, you'd never see one of these locomotives doing, 40 mile an hour down the track. However, for giggles and squiggles, we're doing it. Go ahead and start slowing down. So, as you can see, it takes a minute for the brake pressure to really grab. But listen to those ambient sounds. The smoke is a little bit weird. Cut your throttle. It's just kind of barely little wisp. It'll continue like that up to 20. At 20%, all of a sudden smoke's pouring out. Not my favorite, but whatever. I guess satisfying running gear. Oh yeah, that's something that's a little different. Our whistle lever actually moves. Ambient for the locomotive is non-existent. So that's a little bit of a Cars sound really nice. I'll throw it up in emergency, just for your giggles and squiggles. That's what our sanders sound like. It does put a little sand down here on the rear, which is odd. Oh, I see. We have sand coming from our trailing trucks. That's not right. I imagine that whole set is supposed to move forward. So we have no sand from our front. Sand from our rear. That's an interesting thing. We do have sand. I don't even know. I don't believe brakes are animated or anything like that. But God, I love that. I know. It's a dumb thing to be happy about. I love it. I was saying for a long time. We've gotten locomotive after locomotive and mixed results, but rolling stock gets entirely overlooked for the American side. Germany a little bit too, but the American side, we don't get new rolling stock. We see the same rolling stock used over and over and over and over and over with the same sounds over and over and over. So it's really nice to see some fresh rolling stock with fresh sounds. It's just so nice. I do wish we had gotten some passenger cars, seeing as, you know, there's passenger stops all over the route, but that same dude that you got that did the that K28 and the 460, he's got a pack for narrow gauge Rio Grande cars, passenger cars. If you really want, you can go pick those up. But overall, the route looks really nice, especially out here. Once we get away from the city, it looks really, really nice. Just for giggles and squiggles, we'll hop up here. Yeah, like I said, this is kind of one of those spots. The track is down on the ground like that. It just doesn't... Especially when you get out places like this, it just kind of irks me. It's not right. That's entertaining. I can hear the locomotive chuffing from all the way back here. Which isn't proper. If you've ever been to like Durango, listen to the train leave, you can hear every bit of it echo off through the mountains, which sounds awesome. If you beat it to Silverton and listen to it coming into Silverton, it's such a phenomenal sound, but it's not one that translates all that well in the game, especially with K4 sounds. But it is nice that I can hear the whistle this far away instead of having to be, you know, 10 feet away. We'll go ahead and hop into world editor here so that we can oogie on a little bit faster. Because the scenery does change. It's not all just kind of out in the open like that. It is narrow gauge, and it's narrow gauge for a reason. Once we get off into the mountains, we have to start going through the mountain passes. Like here, you hit some real grades up to, I believe, 4% is the max on this route, which really shows. A lot of people like to run some stupid long trains and whatnot. You can't do it on this route, not without multiple locomotives, because this thing here, this will pull 7, maybe 7 loaded cars up and down those 4% grades willingly. But not a powerhouse. But you end up in places like this where the rails really hug the mountainside, and there's not really any speed limits. Matter of fact, I can show you. We hit 18. Oh, that's some interesting grass. Some floating grass. Oh, the grass continues floating. Off into this, who knows where. That's entertaining. But this is a prime example of user discretion, maybe you put it, but you ain't gonna be wanting to do 18 miles an hour down this curve. You'll be doing good if you do 15. I do it at about 10. You're not going to want to fly down this hill. So that's a prime example of, you know, you got to use a little bit of your own, caution, because there's no speed limits either. So you see that 18-mile-an-hour limit. We have not passed a single speed limit sign. So there are no speed limits, to my knowledge, anywhere on this route. You just have spots like that, so you kind of have to use your own discretion, especially if you're trying to run it without the F4 HUD. You kind of got to look at you got to look ahead, figure out if you're going to fly or not. Yeah, we're not going to want to be doing 25 all the way down here. It definitely takes a second to slow down, but prime example, we're going to slam into this corner here. Look at that. 18 mile an hour is way too quick. So generally, yeah, you drop down about 15 mile an hour. That's about right. So you have to keep that in account for a lot of these curves. Once you get off up into the mountains here, and same for going everywhere else. It's a wild grade. Look at that. Look at how high up we are right now. We're going to end up down there. By the end of this grade, we're going to end up right down there. As you can see, one hell of a grade. Big old cattle pen. If you're running cattle trains, realistically, you'd be making some stops along the way to let everything out, get stretched, feed, whatnot, if they're going long distances. But prime example is some wild grades. A lot of nice custom car assets for you route builders, especially. A lot of nice custom assets like these train stations here. This is a neat one right here. This is a prime example of why I'm a little bit sad we didn't get any passenger cars, because, you know, here's the leftovers of one right here. But there's a lot of nice custom assets all over this route for you route builders. It's a really, really nice looking route. Really nice. One of those flag stops. Cattle siding. Here. For those of you that are good with merging routes too, going south, let's go south to Durango. Here from Rico, and we do have the Durango and Silverton route. It's not finished by any means of a long shot, but, you know, hint, hint, wink, wink. If somebody wanted a really large Rio Grande route, there you go. But anywho, that's about the gist of it. You can see those cars running out there. That's really cool. But that's about the gist of it. Not a whole lot else I can say. It's a prime example of that trackage issue that I was talking about. Like right along here, it's just laid on bare ground. It just doesn't doesn't do it for me. But yeah. Anywho, hope you guys enjoyed the video. You can pick this up in the Steam store for, I believe, around 40 bucks. And I think it's well worth it. If you like narrow gauge, it is well worth checking out. There's a little bit of narrow gauge content out now that, you know, kind of helps you populate the route and make it interesting. Most of the route is single track, so you got to be a little creative with setting up your AI, but overall, it's a really neat route. Overall, nice content, nice stock. So, do go check it out. It's on Steam. Rio Grande Southern route by Milepost Simulations. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I will see you guys next time.